And 1 second. All right, welcome, holding by Pirke Avos, Ethics of Our Fathers, as it is known. Again, want to welcome on, holding by Pirke Avos, Ethics of Our Fathers. We are in chapter 2, Mishna 16. This is part 8. Again, we are in chapter 2, Mishna 16, part 8, and been speaking about the last number of weeks. Last week we had off because of Hanukkah, but basically been speaking about the last number of weeks. That Mishna says in the name of Rebbe Yeshua that an evil eye, the evil inclination, and hatred of other people remove a person from this world. So we've been speaking quite a bit about the evil eye, and we're gonna continue. Maybe we'll finish that up today. We'll see exactly how far it goes. But the Rabbeinu Yonah and his commentary to Pirke Avos says, and I think we spoke about this last week or 2 weeks ago, but we'll mention it. We'll mention it again, and that is like this, right? Says Rabbeinu Yonah. What does it mean? What does it mean that a person has an evil eye? Right? Essentially, it means somebody's jealous. Somebody essentially is jealous of somebody else. They're not happy with what they have. Right? They see their friend has more than them. They have more, I don't know, they have more money. Seem like they have a better family. Looks can be deceiving, but okay. That's how they, that's how they perceive. That's how they perceive it, right? That's how they look at it. So the Mishna Pirke Avos says that we're going to see that later. Who is considered rich, and someone who's considered rich is someone who is sameach b'chelkoi. They're happy with their portion. Now, that being said, why would a person, I could understand, someone else has more money, they have a nicer car, they go on better vacations, they do a lot of things that can make a person jealous. Very good. But what about the other mission? It says someone who's really wealthy, not about physical wealth, right? Who's the person that's wealthy? Happy with what they have. Now, if a person's not happy with what they have, and again, this is very easy. This is very easy to understand. And the reason is because we go through difficulties, right? Everybody goes through difficulties. And the difficulties to go through could be health-wise. Difficulties could be with family, could be with livelihood, could be, a million different things. But the problem, right? The problem is, how do I see straight through the fact that this is what God wants from me? Now, again, a person can say, made a mistake. It's not God's fault per se. God didn't have to stop me, right? God can say, didn't you listen to Rabbi Kaufman's class in 615th commandment? Don't be stupid. I didn't tell you to do this, right? I don't have an obligation to stop you, right? If a person wants to go in the right direction, God will help you. The Gemara says, if you want to go in the wrong direction, God has no obligation to stop you. He might, doesn't want to see you suffer, doesn't want to see you make bad decisions, whatever. He could stop you. He doesn't necessarily have to. So the $1 million question over here is, person going through whatever they're going through, why is it that they are jealous? They are jealous of somebody else. In other words, where is their faith and belief in God? Right? Where is their emunah? Right? And the person will say, come on, this isn't fair. This is hard. This is, all kinds of things. True. It might be hard. Life might be hard in many ways. But, as we always say, that even if life is hard, life is not about what's fair. That's what people have to realize. Life is not about what is fair or not fair. Right? The question is, okay, I'm given certain hand to deal with. Right? At the end of the day, what do I have? What do I have? I got a problem. Because we're gonna probably speak about this tomorrow, right? And that is that maybe I'm put in a position that is impossible. That's impossible, right? In other words, God put me in a position. Put me in a position to fail. Right? That's what he did. He put me in a position to fail. Now, obviously, we don't believe that. Obviously, obviously there are other things going on. But we are not put in a position to fail. God obviously gave us the ability to overcome. Right? He put us in a position to succeed. Now, what's the obvious problem? Again, I'll probably speak about more of this tomorrow. My class on Book of Leviticus is going to come up, right? But in short, the issue is going to be that we're put in a hard situation, right? Seemingly an impossible situation. That's the situation we're in. Now, a person will say, come on, I'm supposed to, how can I be put in this position? It seems impossible, right? It seems impossible to get over. How am I supposed to navigate this? So we believe with perfect faith. That this is not going to happen. You're going to tell me it seems impossible, right? It seems impossible. Seems like an impossible thing. So a person's going to say, like, well, what am I supposed to do? It's a tremendous hardship. True. Right? No one denies it's a hardship. So the question is, how am I looking at it? Right? Am I looking at it? Right? Am I looking at it in a way that's the proper way to look at it? Or do I see, listen, this is really, really hard. Seems impossible. And God put me in a position to fail. Right? That's the way it looks. That's for sure. That's for sure the way it looks. But the person's going to say, I'm here struggling, whatever it is, going through a very hard time, right? Extremely hard time. So you say, God put me in this position, right? Regardless, I did it to myself or God did it, doesn't really matter, right? But you're in this position. So a person's going to say, it's impossible. God put me in a position to fail. So I know of a story. I know really too many details, but I'll mention anyway. I mentioned the story before. I know somebody that became religious, Jew, became an Orthodox Jew, and family, they were in Israel for a while, went back to the States. Family put a lot of pressure on them, right? Family put a lot of pressure on them. And essentially what happened, they felt the pressure was so strong that they couldn't fight against it. And they went back to being a secular Jew. Now, what was their claim without knowing anything? Right? I mean, this is the claim that they made, because that's what I heard. But the claim was that God had put them in too strong a position or too hard a position that it was impossible not to fail. Now, you can ask the question again, I don't know the details. So, this is just conjecture on my part. So you can take that, with a grain of salt, right? And that is, right? And that is like this, that, what happens to, does this person ever been authority in their lives? Do they get advice? Or maybe they got advice, maybe they got bad advice, I don't know, right? So what happened to, going to somebody and, getting advice, what to do, how to deal with the situation. Family pressure is a real thing, right? It's not a small thing. Not a small thing by any stretch. Peer pressure, right? That can cause anxiety. It can cause a person feels that the evil inclination we're going to speak about, the evil inclination probably ad nauseum, but the evil inclination, will come along, try and destroy them in the process, right? Trying to get them to say, listen, no one's going to accept you, family won't accept you, community won't accept you, no one will accept you. Yeah. And the evil inclination will come and pound you, demolish you. And the evil inclination does a great job, doesn't even mean to agree. Does a tremendous job, but it makes us second guess. Right? There's nothing worse in this world than being in doubt. Right? Gemara makes that clear. Other sources make that clear. Right? Nothing worse than having doubts. Because you're not sure what to do. Should I go this way? Should I go that way? Right? Now, doesn't a person have to have, faith in God that God's going to direct you in the right way? We believe that. But again, as Chos Avos says, in duties of the heart, you have to put your best foot forward. That is your absolute obligation. You have to put, you have to do whatever you need to do. Now, a person can make a decision based on illusions or based on what they think they should do, but not based on what they really should do. And a person, interesting enough, God could try and convince a person to do the wrong thing, put ideas in their head that are wrong. Why? Why would God do that? To destroy them. I don't mean they don't have free will. They have free will. Free will might be limited, even if it's limited. Yeah, if God wants to build up a person and whatever and then destroy them, he can do that. He certainly can do that. And you see that many times. Mention this, by leaders, by athletes, entertainers, build up, big business, lots of money, this and that, and then they do something, or something happens to them, they get flattened like a pancake, right? They absolutely get flattened like a pancake. Now, why does God do that? Why does God do that? Punishing them. They are getting punished. But God does it in a way, right? God does it in a way where he builds them up, gives them quote unquote credibility, this and that. You know, they're making good money. Other things are good. Doesn't mean life is perfect, but they have all these good things going, and then they do something, or something happens to them. Even better, they do something stupid. Yeah, you get professional athletes. It happens where they're up for a big contract, and they get caught doing something, and that destroys them. Everything they built up. Now imagine, person plays college sports, finally makes it to the pros, right? Because the ones that make it to the pros are few, the few only make it, and actually succeed in the pros. Okay. But, imagine you got that far. You got that far. And then you're at the top of the game. And wherever that sport is, so, you sign a contract, you're up for a new contract, or you can renegotiate a contract, whatever it is. And then a person did something stupid. That's it. Could be ruined for life. Or even better. There's a story that, I looked this up because I was just curious for the stat. What's the average lifespan of a football player, professional football player, in the States? So I thought it was much higher, but people get injured, right? And they could have serious injuries and never play, or have to retire depending on the injury. Yeah, what's the average lifespan? 3 years. 3 years is according to what I saw a while ago. The average lifespan of a professional football player to play football is 3 years. So you get that contract. Okay, maybe, you get a halfway decent contract at the beginning, let's say, but now you can make mega bucks. Really mega bucks. So a number of things can happen in between. Person's up for, what do you call it? For a, big payday, and they get injured. Or, even worse, they do it to themselves. They get caught doing something or whatever it may be. That's it. Nobody wants to touch them. They're going to be a pariah. They'll be a pariah. So now you think about it, it's an interesting thing. Here, for years, they've been built up. They worked hard. Yeah. They worked hard. They finally make it to the game. They make it to the big league. Very good. And then they come crashing down. So you say, like, nobody knows what's going to be, how it's going to be. One bad hit, one bad thing, it's it. Career takes total, goes a different way. I know, whatever. When I was growing up, there was a football player for New England Patriots. That's where I grew up, in Boston. That's when the team was terrible. I mean, now that, back to being terrible. But any case, a football player, whatever, wide receiver, got hit in a certain way, paralyzed. Got paralyzed for life. No, it was kind of a cheap hit, right? You look at the film, it was definitely a cheap hit, no question. And the person who hit him also, whatever, was known to do things like this. In any case, that person paralyzed for life. Prime of his life. Now, most people would know that the possibility of getting injured, certainly in football, other sports less in certain ways. Right, baseball even less, depending. Right, basketball, wear and tear in your knees and legs and whatever. But football, how many people are really going to last so long, have a career of 10 years, 15 years, if they're lucky? Not so many. Not so many. Now, they made a movie a number of years ago about people having, serious head injuries and what it caused them later in life. It's caused them to go nuts, commit suicide because of the pain. But, again, if you were to ask most people who are going to play, you ask them, there's a possibility not only, could you get seriously injured, but later on, even if you don't, because of concussions and, and all that, it's going to cause serious head injuries. It's going to cause serious damage. It's like, a person gets tackled or whatever, you're coming, 20, 30 kilometers an hour, bam, you get hit by a freight train. Takes, wear and tear on the body. right? That's no question. Now, if you'd ask most people, this is what could happen. There's a good chance it could happen. Would you be willing to take the risk? Would you be willing to take the risk? And most people would say yes. 100% they would say yes. I don't think there's any question. Even knowing the damage, they would do it. They would 100% they would do it. That being the case, what does Torah say? Torah says you don't want to put yourself in damage. Put yourself in danger. Can't be a boxer. Right? No question, in theory, how you could be a boxer. Because really causing damage to someone else. Right? That you're really not allowed to do. Now, forget about damage to yourself. That's another issue. Right? But causing a wound on someone else, forbid it. I can make a lot of money, this and that. So how are you allowed to do that? But on top of that, there's another question. I would say more obvious question, and that is you're putting your life in danger. Not saying you're going to die in the ring, right? Most people do not die, in a boxing ring. There have been cases. There have been, a few cases over the years where, someone got knocked out or whatever. They went to the hospital afterwards and they died from their injuries. It's happened. It's definitely happened. It's rare, but it can happen. Now, you can say, put boxing and football up there together. I'm not even talking about rugby or whatever, but, take these two sports. They're dangerous. 100% they're dangerous, right? You see what happened to, Muhammad Ali later in life, or Cassius Clay as he was known, right? And Parkinson's. That's, that's a direct result. Okay, didn't help him boxing until he was like 38 or whatever, but still, all the pounding, that a person gets is a direct result, no question. But again, if you were to ask him when he was younger, this is what could happen. And you ask any athlete like that, this is what could happen. You're willing to take the responsibility. Of course they're going to say yes. How many people are going to say with that, with that talent that they have and that ability that they have, they're not going to want, you only live in this world once, hopefully, right? Even if a person came back as a reincarnated soul, it doesn't matter, right? You're only in this world once. So you're going to say, I want to enjoy, as much as I can in this world. Person's a rare breed. They have that ability, right? They have that athletic ability. We use sports as an example. They have that athletic ability. People are going to say no. People are going to say it's too dangerous. I don't want to do it. And what it's going to cause later. Again, most people are young. Obviously, they're young. They say I'll deal with it later. I'll deal with the consequences later. I got, this is my opportunity. This is my crack at fame. Yeah, this is my chance. Of course, they're gonna take that chance. Why wouldn't they take the chance? Wouldn't make sense that they wouldn't. Because they're not thinking practically. Not thinking in the bigger scheme of things. They're thinking big money. They're thinking fame. They're thinking honor. Right? Everybody will tell you that. What about the damage? Yeah. What about putting your life in danger? This is their chance. Now, logically speaking, even if you show them this, and you show them beyond the shadow of a doubt what happens later, or what potentially could happen. Now, the chances of them saying, well, that's not going to be me. You have no idea. You have no idea. Some of these injuries, even when a person retires, they don't fully go away. Okay, they don't have the same wear and tear, but it affects the body. So you afflicted the body where you shouldn't have. Right? So there are two sides of the question. First side of the question is you're inflicting damage on someone else. Inflicting damage on someone else should be forbidden. Should be forbidden. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to cause someone pain. Right? You're not allowed to do that. Now, in boxing, you'll say, well, who says every punch is going to do that? They get deflected, this and that. You're right. That's also true. What about the ones that do connect? Cause pain. I mean, that's the whole point, right? It's kind of the whole point. Or MMA, all these things, the same thing. That is exactly the point. You're causing someone else pain. So that's one aspect. And the other aspect is you could also be caused pain. You can also get damaged. And a person's, let's say, relatively young, doing this, a few good smacks to the head, this and that, cause damage for life, in theory. Now some people say, no, it takes longer, it takes this amount, that amount, whatever. Doesn't matter. Person may never be the same. So it says you're allowed to do that. And I guarantee most people ask the question and take a survey, but I think it's pretty simple. They are going to take the chance because this is their one chance for fame. This is their one chance. So if they have the chance, why not take it? Oh, I'll worry about it later. What happens? There are stories. People played even in college. There was a story, I don't know, a few years ago. I heard of a story that I don't know, it was a fluke thing. College football, the kid ended up paralyzed. Kid was paralyzed. Is that common? No. It's not common. So they say, well, why don't you go according to the majority? Majority of times, a college football player is not going to get paralyzed. True. Even a professional football player won't get paralyzed, right? So in that case, I was thinking, it was in the 70s it happened. This wide receiver got paralyzed. Here, concussions, yes. ACL, tearing up their knees, yes. These things are more common. Okay. Someone getting hit in a certain way, it's going to be paralyzed? Very few. Very rare. So you say, I'll go according to the majority. That's not going to happen. Okay. What about concussions? That's more common. Much more common. Other injuries, more common. Leg injuries, ankle injuries, upper body injuries. Of course it's common. More common. And even if they know it, what would most people say? They're going to do it. They're still going to do it. But again, we're looking at it from a Torah perspective. So I bring up all this. Why? What's the point? Because God can take anybody, political leader. He can take an athlete, an actor, etc. Build them up and kill them, destroy them. You say, what's the point? So, I would say it's God's irony, because God can say, I have a lot of patience. I want to see if this person's going to repent or not or whatever. So God says, okay, I let it go, even though God knows the future. God knows past, present, and future. So God knows what's going to happen. Right? He knows this person's not going to repent, get worse, this and that. Okay. But it doesn't knock them out straight away. The only case you see such a case is the book of Deuteronomy that talks about the wayward son. The wayward son, you give him 6 months. You give him 6 months. Between the ages 12 and 12 and a half. Right? You give him 6 months. And if he doesn't change his ways, right, he eats a quarter pound of meat, he drinks wine, you kill him. Parents take him out to the center of the square, they kill him. And he dies. The only case, according to Judaism, you kill someone, you don't allow them to repent. You don't give them the opportunity to repent later. It's a mind-boggling thing. Even though the Gemara says, it never really happened, because in order for a wayward son to get killed, the father and mother have to be the same height, same voice. The Gemara goes through a lot of details. Right? So one opinion is, if it never happens, right? One opinion is, this never happened. Child was never killed in this way. Never happened. So Gemara asks the question, if it never happened, then what's the purpose of it? Why does the Torah teach me? And what's the answer? The Torah teaches it so you can get reward. Even if it doesn't have any practical ramifications. Even if it never happened. Right? You get reward. But even without that, it's the only command in the Torah that you don't allow the person to repent. Now, The obvious question is why? Because the reality is, if this kid doesn't get his meat and his wine, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? He's going to steal. Right? He'll steal from his parents. Steal from others. So therefore, you nip it in the bud. But again, somebody could say, he can repent later. He for sure can repent. Not going to be addicted forever. Maybe hits rock bottom. Okay. I could hear that. Maybe hits rock bottom. So even if he hits rock bottom, eventually he'll get up. There are addicts to all kinds of things that eventually turn their life around, some of them. But they have to hit rock bottom first. That's what happens, usually. Some of them don't. Some of them just stay that way and they lose everything and that's it. Right? They live out their life however they do and finish. Right? But a great expert in addictions, Abraham Twersky, of blessed memory. He said that is, he was a world-class expert in addictions. And he said there are people that will only understand the difficulty of what they're going through and the damage it's causing. They will only understand when they lose everything. Now, he says it doesn't have to come to that. It shouldn't come to that. Right? But he says, based on his experience, what did he see? What did he see? He saw at the end of the day, what did he see? He saw, okay, what could he do? He didn't get the message. He got stuck in this addiction, whatever it is. And they have to lose everything. Right? So there are times a person has to hit rock bottom. Doesn't have to be, but usually the case. That a person will hit rock bottom and then they'll work their way out of it. But, what does God want? He wants a person not to hit rock bottom. But again, the inclination takes them, other things take them, life is too hard, whatever. That's what happens. That's essentially what happens. But again, a person can say, it's not my fault. Well, whose fault is it? Whose fault is it? So, by the wayward son, since God knows past, present, and future, he knows. He knows this is so bad, and this addiction is so bad, it'll never change. He'll absolutely never change. Therefore, since he'll never change, you don't give him the opportunity later. Because it's not going to help. This is something that's not going to help. Now, if you were to ask me my own personal opinion, I would have thought about that. I got to think about other things that are worse that a person may never change from. I wouldn't necessarily have thought of that. Okay. Right? But I'm not even going to say it's a slippery slope. It's worse than a slippery slope. The point is this person just gets demolished. Totally gets demolished. And there's no way out. They're going to say, but it's not his fault. But it is not his fault. I want to say he's programmed that way. He's not programmed that way. Everyone's programmed the same. Right? Yeah, okay. Men and women have a little bit different DNA. Okay. But nonetheless, we're all given a clean slate when we're born. But he could say, the Mishna Pirke Avos says, get there one day when I'm about 97. You're born against your will, you die against your will. And as Kaufman would say, in parentheses, you have to live. So we're not in control. Not in control our siblings are. Not in control our families. Right? Or our parents are. Not in control of socioeconomic situation. Okay. So we're each born in different types of homes. Very good. Some better, some worse. Whatever it is. Now the question is how you deal with it. And how you look at it. So based on that, it's not about life being fair, as we said before. What's it about? It's about what I do in my own situation. It's about how I am now going to view it. Because the reality is, God could say, listen, you're right, I made you this. Now, after 120 years, the person's going to get upstairs. After they die, they're going to say, God's going to ask them, why did you do this, do that, do the other thing. And the person can say, you programmed me that way. That's why I was programmed. God says, okay. Well, now let's say that's the case. Was it because of the evil inclination, anything else? You were given too much of X, whatever it is. Too much anger, too much, I don't know, whatever it is. So you're going to say, what do you want from me? You programmed me that way. God says, okay. I gave you more of this, or I gave you more of that. Okay, I didn't tell you to act on it. But you say, I have a disposition. You gave me that disposition, even if he did. Even if he did, so what? He still gives you the opportunity to overcome it. Because even though we have an evil inclination, there's an antidote. The antidote is Torah. The antidote with Torah, you need God. You need God to help you. Right? You need God to help you. With Torah. Doesn't happen by itself. That's how strong the evil inclination. Right? We'll speak about the evil inclination. But in general, a person's got a great claim. You did it to yourself, and you made me that way. That's the claim. That for sure is a claim. And God's going to say, so what does that have to do with anything? And I made this person with these biases. And I made this person with those biases. Okay. So each one will get judged how they get judged. Everyone's got theirs. So you say, well, it's not my fault. It's not a question of it's your fault or not. That's your DNA. That's how we're made up. Okay. Now, regardless of what you do otherwise, the question is, how am I dealing with it? Which direction is it going? Could it be overcoming, overwhelming, make it so impossible? Yes. It could. The question is, how am I going to deal with it? How am I going to view it? Person, let's say, they're born with health issues. You got people born that way. Or maybe it happens when they're younger or whatever. Yeah. That other people don't have. You can say, well, it's my bad luck. We don't believe in bad luck. Why did God give it to you? Who knows what your soul has to go through? Right? It's what your soul has to go through. Right? If you got it when you were younger. Because it's not punishment. Not punishment. It's what happens when, your soul comes back. It has to, go through certain things. But it's not punishment. It can't be because the person's not liable. Right? The person's 100% not liable till after bar mitzvah or till the age of 20. So if anything underage, it's not their fault. There's something else going on there. But even so, right? Even so, there are people that are born sickly. Or they're born, mentally challenged. Not their fault. Mentioned this many times. Not their fault. But what everyone else around them. Now it's a new reality. How it has to be done, dealt with. Or things can happen, later, whatever it is. A lot of things in this world we didn't necessarily ask for. We could have done it to ourselves that's worse. Why are you talking about that? Talking about the fact what happens when you didn't do it. You didn't ask for certain things. Let's say. And they happened anyway against your will. You're going to say, person's under onus, something you're not in control of. Very good. You're not in control. Okay. But you have to deal with it. You have to deal with it. That's what you have to do. Doesn't matter if that's not what you wanted. Doesn't matter if, it's out of your realm, it's out of your control. How's God going to judge the person afterwards, whatever they do? That's a good question. That's a very good question. Why we can never judge anyone unless we've been in their shoes. A person got embarrassed by a teacher or whatever, they leave Judaism, we can't judge that. No one wants to be embarrassed. Embarrassment's like akin to death. Right? Because the person turns white, then they turn red. Right? So anyone's ever been embarrassed in public, they understand. They understand what it is. So the person says, this happened, that happened. and that's it. I was telling someone, telling someone earlier, I hear sometimes people will say, people like in their 70s or whatever would say, when I went to Cheder, I went to the Jewish school and I get hit by the Rebbe, and that's what Judaism is. Now they're making a decision. They're making a decision based on something that happened when they were 7 years old, 8 years old. Who in their right mind would ever make such a decision? You can say, no one disagrees. Let's say what this person did was wrong. Let's say 100%. A Rebbe should never hit a child. True. Shouldn't hit a child. Okay. But they did. Good. They had a bad day. Whatever. Took it out on the kid. Whatever. I'm not saying the kid's necessarily innocent here. Okay. Right? So not even going into education here. Point is, kid's traumatized. Okay. So, community therapy, this, that, very good. But how does someone make a decision? How does someone make a decision that they're going to leave anything, everything spiritual based on something that happened when they were 7? Now, again, a person could say, you don't have the right to judge. They went through a trauma. Could be. Very well could be. Could be a trauma. But back in the day, nobody is mature enough at that age to make such a decision. I heard this. Someone said they had to be in their 70s at the time, 60s or 70s. They said, and they said, well, this is what happened. I was a kid and I get hit by the Rebbe, and that's what Judaism is. I said, but it's not. That's not what Judaism is. Right? Right? But that's not what it is. But the person kept saying the same thing over and over. In other words, they use that as an excuse in order to say, I don't have to keep Torah mitzvahs. Right? I don't have to do anything. Right? And the reason I don't have to do anything is what? What's the reason? Because this is what happens. Very, very, very interesting excuse. So, people can see contradictions in what people do. To do as I say, not as I do. People get turned off by that. They can get turned off by other things. But, how can you make a calculated decision about what Torah mitzvahs is or should be based on something that happened when you were 6 or 7? Now, you could say, someone went through, a huge trauma. Let's say, this person was a pedophile, or this person got bullied, or whatever. These are traumatic things. Again, I'm not, I'm not here to judge. That's a horrific thing, right? And that person needs to be disciplined, no question. And you see that the child gets messed up in the process. True. But again, I'll ask a fundamental question. I mean, you have this by priests all the time. All the time, scandal after scandal after scandal, right? Makes sense. Everyone's got, bodily needs or whatever, but you take away the strongest urge that a person has, who knows what they'll do with it if you try and suppress it. I'm not justifying it. What they do is wrong and they mess up a lot of people in the process. Very good. Right? So a person gets, you could say, well, because of that, and this is what happens, then the church is to blame, then the whole religion is to blame. Could say that, right? That I could hear, because the way it's set up, you are putting someone up to fail. In that case, you're putting someone up to fail. Right? I mean, if someone stays, quote unquote, a choir boy, they don't do anything, okay, my hat off to them. But, a person like that's not human. Right? They have needs. They're going to have to get the need somewhere. They have to come somewhere. I'm not justifying it. But, but a person could say, You see all these scandals. Oh, this happened, that happened. And a person says, well, I have nothing to do with religion. They don't make that connection usually. They'll say the person's a bad egg, should have been in that profession, this, that. Okay. But they're not going to say it's the church's fault. Well, of course it's the church's fault in that case. Because they're setting them up to fail. That makes sense. Now, someone who teaches, they're a religious Jew and they teach others. When something happens, you're right. So they shouldn't be teaching or should be around these people, whatever it is. But are we going to now say we're going to blame God? We're going to blame Judaism? That's what Judaism advocates. Judaism certainly doesn't advocate that by any stretch. But then a person can say, well, community tried to hide it, push under the rug, this, that. That's a problem. That's it. That's a serious problem. But I will tell you, say, could a person have a bitter taste in their mouth? Yes, they could. Person got, abused by the system. Could happen. I'm not, it has happened. I'm not going to say it hasn't happened. It happens. Now, in the bigger scheme of things, again, I'm not in anyone's shoes. I'm just talking generalities. But in the bigger scheme of things, does that mean Judaism goes out the window? Because you have a few bad eggs. Why does Judaism totally get maligned? Because they're going to put the blame on the system. Right? They're going to put the blame on the system. If they put the blame on the system, God's on trial. Then it's not fair. They're going to say it's man-made and should have been, they make it too hard, too restrictive, so they do this, they do that, a million other things. Okay. Now, again, I'm not justifying it. But God and Judaism get thrown under the bus. There people can see contradictions in other people's. This idea, as we said, do as I say, not as I do. Okay. But again, I will ask a very simple question. What does this have to do? What does it have to do with Torah? What does it have to do with keeping mitzvahs? You'll tell me it shouldn't have anything to do with that. True. But what are people going to associate with? Again, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. That I understand. Right? And let's say, let's say a person got burned by the system. So you say the system is bad. Okay. Maybe it is. Maybe in certain things it is. It's not perfect. It's a man-made system, right? The way it's set up now, right? In general. But the Torah is what it is. But people will say, this is what Judaism is. They do this, they do that, and they chuck it. Now again, I'm looking at it from an outsider's position. And could it be that it's very hard to go through? Yes. Could it be it's totally embarrassing to go through? Yes. Could it be like you've been let down? Yes. But let me ask a fundamental question. Fundamental question would be, even with all that, the next day, if it's a guy, don't you have to put on tefillin? Right? Don't you have to put on phylacteries, not on Shabbos or festival? Yes. Don't you have to, guard yourself against, what do you call it? Speaking Lashon Hara, speaking badly against others? Yes. Doesn't mean you still have to keep Shabbos? Yes. But what will people say? I didn't get defended, I didn't get help, and they chuck the whole system. Or they go against the whole system. It's their choice. Nobody should go through any of these hardships. Person makes their own choice. But seemingly, if they had the proper philosophical outlook, God put them in the situation for whatever reason. right? So it makes it harder. You're going to say, God, why are you doing this to me? Very good. And we believe God is all good, right? So again, even if you want to say it has nothing to do with the sin that the person did, let's say, probably not the case, but let's say they knew 100%, God came to them and said, you know what, this thing you went through, I understand, you're upset, you're angry, you had all this difficulty. Just understand it wasn't anything personal you did against me. You yourself right now in this world. Even if God would reveal himself and tell you that, and say it's really based on what your soul had to go through, I had to punish it because of what it did before, that's why I had to go through it. Now, let's say that would happen. And God opened our eyes, because I get this question all the time. Why am I going through this? Why am I going through that? I want to know the measure for measure. So I'm not so convinced that if God would open your eyes and tell you, that you'd be much happier afterwards. It's like being hit between the eyes. But let's say God would say, you know what? Your soul did this, in a previous life. And, you got other things they're going to punish you for, but not for this. But this is what you have to go through to pay up for that. Now, the person's going to say, okay, thank you very much. I'm glad it's only that. I don't know, did the trauma leave? Did what happened to them disappear? Didn't disappear. It didn't go anywhere, but now they have, a little bit of equilibrium. Now they're saying, oh, you know what? Now I understand it didn't affect, it wasn't because of me. Right? But we're not given that. So we don't know either way. But who's the first person we're going to blame in general? It's God. 100%. He's going to get blamed. Stower's going to get blamed. And the person says, I don't want to have anything to do with it. Now, that's their choice. That 100% is their choice. But if they would see the bigger picture, now again, trauma is a hard thing here. Someone was accosted by a pedophile as a kid. Okay, it's very hard to see the bigger picture in that. You don't have to love the person who did it, obviously. Right? That's for sure. But at the same time, we don't know why these things happen. It's an onus. It's against your will. You don't have a choice. It's against your will. Yeah, you could say, okay, it's my soul has to go through this and that. It's still a trauma. It's still a huge trauma. So it could be, if that person's gonna say I have nothing to do with God or whatever because what he put me through and whatever. I can't judge that. Can't judge someone who went through the Holocaust and became non-religious because of it. There are people who stayed strong and still stayed strong, after they came out. They survived, even though the whole families were killed and whatever. They didn't lose their faith. Those people you ask a blessing from, they're still alive. If they're still religious. Those people deserve blessing, to be able to give blessing. But the other ones that came out and said, where was God during the Holocaust? Why did my family get killed in front of my face and all the horrific things that happened? Even in recent history, what happened on October 7th? You can ask that question. Yeah. I don't know how many people that's asking the question. A lot of them weren't religious being there, obviously. But, okay. So, the bigger picture is not going to wean the person and say, oh, everything's great. I understand the bigger picture, okay. Person went through serious trauma. Right? I'm not here to judge that. Definitely not here to judge that. And if they came through it, and they still have, faith and belief in God, all the power to them. Can I understand why they'd be angry? Yeah. Could understand. But you see, when something happens against your will, under onus, as we would say, totally against your will, you're not in control. 100% you're not in control. What is the view? There's only a few ways to look at it. It's either a person going to say, my bad luck. Wrong place, wrong time. And even if a person would have a proper perspective, and a person would say, okay, this is what my soul had to go through, whatever, it doesn't negate the fact it's a trauma. And it'll affect them probably their whole life. Sometimes better, sometimes worse. but it will affect them. Okay. Right? So that I'm not coming to judge. God will judge it how he judges it. Now, that means he's going to give him a free pass? I don't know. Because of what happened, they get, they're totally under onus, and what happened? They get rehabilitated. They go through therapy. Therapy can certainly help. Might need medication, therapy, both. Torah itself's not going to will it, for sure not. Major trauma. But think about it. There are two things here. You got logic, and you got the mind. And you got your heart. The logic will tell you, if a person's underage, this and that, it's totally against your will. Then logically, a person can say, it had nothing to do with me. It's not your fault, for sure not, right? It had nothing to do with me, but what happened? This is what God wanted to happen. This is what your soul had to go through for a different thing. Now, why? Again, I'm not God. If I would, I'd be world famous here, right? But that's one alternative. It's one way of looking at it. Is that it had nothing really to do with me. It had to do with my soul has to go through. It's not my fault, right? I didn't ask for it. But that's what happened. Good. Now, in the second case, what's the alternative? What's the heart going to say? So intellectually, a person can say that. I don't think too many people would, but an intellectually, a person can say that. What's the flip side? The heart's going to say they're in pain. And it's tragic. Right? And it's tragic. And because it's tragic, they crumble. Understandably. Because of the pain and the trauma and the embarrassment. It's all true. Now again, is all therapy in the world going to clear it up? I'm not going to say all of it. It can clear up. It can help. It can certainly help, deal with the emotion, deal with the frustration, and all that. And people can still function in life. Doesn't mean every single day of their lives going to be whistling Dixie and everything else. Right? The heart's going to be in pain. Emotionally, they'll be in pain. And that could affect them because we're people around them. Are they helping them? Are they just blowing them off? Are they, they think maybe they made it up. They don't think it's real, whatever. Yeah. In the religious community, 90% or more of kids that commit suicide, young adults commit suicide and get into drugs. Number one cause is sex abuse. Number one cause. Yeah, that's what I've heard from experts in the field. So I'll take their word for it. Number one cause. And there are a lot of things that go with that. People don't believe them. The embarrassment of it. Right? Again, I'm not here to judge. So the mind could say, it's not my fault. It's looking at it from a different perspective. It's saying, it's saying all the right things. God's one in charge. He's the one punishing my soul for what I had to go through. This has nothing to do with me because you're underage. All these things. Very good. So the mind could understand that. But what's the flip side? And the flip side is going to be stronger. Much stronger. The flip side is going to say, they're emotionally in pain. Tremendously in pain. For a lot of different reasons. Now, is all therapy in the world going to help? Don't know. Some of it. Person maybe have to go on medication or whatever. But person can be helped. Yeah, I know of a story of still, someone who's a father, grandfather, was molested as a child. And, obviously still hates the person who did it, whatever. They functions normal life. He didn't say like, he's, every day is good, functions, right? He had a job, provided for his family, his grandkids, whatever. He still, he feels the pain many years later. But obviously he was able to function them. Some people, they can't function, or it's very hard to function. Again, I'm not coming to judge that, but what I'm pointing out is doesn't mean it can't not necessarily be fixed, that that can't be helped. That even so, person can lead a normal life. Person can still have a connection to God. They can ask the question, why did it happen? Again, if birth happened when they were younger, it's not their fault. It's what their soul has to go through. So something like that intellectually in general, a person can hear. They can hear that intellectually. What's the problem? What's the problem? Problem is there's a mind to heart disconnect. And something like this is very hard. Extremely hard. Because a person is demolished emotionally. Demolished. And that trauma has effects. For sure has effects. Right? That there's no question. On the other hand, there are people equipped to deal with this. There are people that can help in such a situation. Even if someone, God forbid, is homosexual, there are people who can help them. 100%. Yeah. So even a person has that instinct more than others. Okay. Not saying society convinced, whatever. Let's say they're born with a certain instinct like that. Okay, God says don't act on it. I don't want you to act on it. It's not a normal thing. Certainly according to the Torah, today is a different issue, but according to the Torah, it's not a normal desire. Totally not. But even so, can a person get helped? Yes. It's going to be easy? I don't think it's going to be easy. Any of these things are not going to be easy. Doesn't mean a person can't overcome it. So now, if I were God, and I would say, okay, I understand. You went through this trauma. Very good. So I'll take this away, I'll take that away, certain things. But God can say, listen, okay, this is what your soul had to go through. God opens your eyes, tells you that, so that's nothing to do with you. You're still going to serve me? You're still going to keep what I told you to keep? Or are you going to hold it against? That's a test. That is a test. Imagine a person was given a lot of money and it gets taken from them. It gets stolen or whatever. Right? So, in my case, someone asked the question. They said, all the people you helped or whatever, do you have any regret? Now, if I would have said I have regret, you lose all the mitzvahs you've done. All of them. By the way, so good thing I didn't know that then. But I didn't regret it. I don't have any regret. I understood a lot more of the mechanics after the fact, but okay. I didn't have regret. You don't spit in the hand that feeds you. For sure not. But couldn't a person have a claim and say, like, helped all these people? Yeah, you give charity, it's supposed to guard you. It's supposed to guard your life. So what happened to that promise? What's the answer? Because there are other things going on. It's true. Charity saves you from death. Good. So it could be. There was a death sentence on my head. God forbid. So God said, okay, so I'll take away your money. So a poor person, one of the 4 people, consider like they're already dead. Poor person, a blind person, someone has saras. Yeah, consider like they're dead. So okay, you have a choice. I can just take your life for whatever you did. Or I can take away your money. I wasn't given that choice, but let's say that was the reason. Okay. Now, what about all the good? What about all the good the person had? You're going to spit at it because now this happened? Now, is it tragic? Tragic. You lost a lot of things? Yeah. Traumatic? Yeah. Also traumatic. I'll go from riches to rags overnight. Traumatic. I'm not going to tell you the rest of the story, but yeah, traumatic. But you have a choice. The choice is, you're going to serve God every day? You're going to still keep what he says or not? Now, the choice could have been, I'm done. Listen, help all these people. This is a very logical argument. helped a lot of people. And now look what I have to show for. Now you took everything away. That I left and came back and whatever, been around the world and back. Well, it wasn't easy. It wasn't an easy transformation. I'm not going to say every day I was whistling Dixie. No question. But at the same time, it wasn't like, why'd you do this? That wasn't my question. I had different questions. That wasn't one of them. But at the end of the day, a person could say, come on, you help others, you should be protected. Should be. In general terms, that should be the case. So why do you have people that, have money lose it? Either have it stolen or bad investments or whatever. But they helped a lot of people. So there are other things going on. Right? Not a full-fledged guarantee. You do this, it's going to happen without anything. It should guard you, this, that, very good. And let's say it has. You don't see it, but let's say it has. For sure. You just don't see it now. That doesn't mean, that omen isn't true. Because there could be many other things going on. At the same time. Oh, but if I, because I get this all the time. If I say this, 40 days, or I do this, or I do that, this should guarantee me, livelihood, and to get married and this and that, right? And someone will say, no, I did it 40 days, it didn't work. I don't have someone in my life, romantically, and, my livelihood's worse. So, my answer was to keep doing it. Just keep doing it. Can't hurt. But that doesn't mean it's a guarantee. I don't have to do anything else. No, I'm trying, I'm working hard, and that doesn't matter. I don't want to scare anyone, but think about it. If, the Chosel Vava says, it says in Duties of the Heart, that we don't do a third, a tenth, a quarter of what we're supposed to do. In serving God, we don't do, we're not doing close to what we need to. So do we really think? Do we really think we should be immune? Nothing should happen? You think, well, it shouldn't be this hard. Whatever. But person gonna say, person makes a cheshbon and nefesh, a self-account, right? You make a self-account before you go to sleep. Now again, without truly demolishing yourself, but you take a self-account. What did I accomplish today? What did I learn today? How did I interact with others today? How did I do this, do that, do the other thing? Right? You make a whole list of things. Now, if we're truly honest, are we going to pass the test? And what grade are we going to give ourselves if we're honest? I'm not saying, nitpicky things, but, we're honest. So then a person's going to come along, right? A person's going to come along and say, I deserve this. I don't have it coming. Remember, it would be very depressing here. Remember, when a person does something wrong, it's like taking 2 steps backwards. In order to get back where you were at 0, you have to take 2 steps forward. Now multiply that over time. We're in trouble. Seemingly in trouble. If God is king, which he is, and we don't do what the king says, there'll be payback. Sometimes it'll be worse, sometimes not. But you got to remember, even if there's payback, look at all the good a person has. We very much forget that. As a friend of mine would say, if you only get hit in the pocket, you didn't get hit at all. You get hit in a lot worse way. I'm not saying get hit in the pocket is fun. But if you didn't get hit health-wise, God forbid, or in other ways, getting hit in the pocket's nothing. Conceivably, nothing. Sometimes you have better, sometimes not, it doesn't matter. Even if you got debts, doesn't matter. Right? That's not real, to a good extent, that's not real suffering. Yeah. It's suffering, but not the same. So it's a question of perspective. Right? That's what life is. What I do, what happens, how I deal with it, how I view it. So that perspective is huge. But that perception, intellectually, the point here is that intellectually it does not is not necessarily gonna it's not gonna person's not gonna follow through, in spiritual terms. It's good reason, right? There's very good reason for that. And the answer is because when a person goes through, sometimes you just can't see beyond it. A person just suffers. They go through hardship. And they believe God is good. God is good. So the question is, how am I supposed to view it? And there is this disconnect. There's a disconnect between the mind and the heart. Because the mind can understand what we've said intellectually, can make a lot of sense. A lot of sense. The problem is, the heart is the heart. Feels it. Feels the pain. Ask the question, why this, why that? Ask the question. It doesn't get over that hump. Very hard to get over that hump. Yeah, a bunch of questions here. Let me just deal with them. Somebody asked, circumcision started in Egypt before Abraham and Joseph got there. Circumcision was given to Abraham. That was the command. The circumcise was given to Abraham. That's where it started, and he passed it down. Interesting, yeah, it's an interesting question that Joseph had the Egyptians circumcise themselves also. But wasn't, first of all, you can tell me it's before the Torah was given, right? Even though, they kept the Torah before it was given, right? Whatever that means. But circumcision was first given, it was first given Abraham, right? That's for sure. If so, what's the reason for Egyptians to get circumcised? Good question. Right. That is a good question. Right. Someone asked me that before. Let's see here. So one actually interesting. One potential reason that the Egyptians are, non-Jews don't have an obligation to circumcise, even if Joseph kept the Torah before it was given. That's very good. That's the Jewish people, right? That's what the Jewish people are going to come out. Very good. So what does that do with the Egyptians? Very good. So according to Kabbalah, not necessarily going to go into Kabbalah, but according to Kabbalah, interesting that the Jews were in Egypt 130 years. They were there 130 years prior to the birth of Moses, right? And they were there gathering sparks of holy souls, which Adam had discharged by wasting seed 130 years prior, right? The whole thing that he separated from his wife, for all those years. So those souls were reincarnated. People lived during the time of the flood, then they got destroyed. And they were reincarnated again, generation of the Tower of Babel. But they didn't fix the sin of Adam, right? And the following generations. So then they were reincarnated according to this, they were reincarnated as Egyptians. So Yosef saw in a prophetic vision that the sparks of those souls been produced for wasting seed, right? During those years. So what did he do? He decreed in order to fix that. What should they do? Circumcision, right? In order to fix that sin. Very interesting, right? In other words, blemish against the Holy Covenant. Very good. So they had to come back as Egyptians. They had to be circumcised, right? Also, Medrash says that Yaakov converted Egyptians as well and told them to observe Israelite customs, i.e., like circumcision, right? So you have actually you have a few reasons here, right? But that's an answer according to Kabbalah. Yeah, that these souls had to come back. They had to come back a few times. These souls did not get fixed, so to speak. They didn't get fixed up. So since they didn't get fixed up, what happened? Since they didn't get fixed up, what happens? So that then they had to go through circumcision, right? Through what they sinned, they had to rectify by going through circumcision. That is that's possible, interesting answer. Someone says the Gemara mentions Moshe to be 10 amos tall. It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor, right? It's a metaphor. Saying he was tall, but it wasn't. We don't necessarily take that to mean that he was actually that tall, right? He'd be like, I don't know, 8 feet tall or something, right? If you tell me he was shorter than that, right? What? Let me just see what the exact. See what the number is. It was 6 tefachim or 48 centimeters or 19.2 inches. So yeah, he'd be 190 inches, right? Let's say 192 or 190 inches, right? So you divide that by 12 feet, it means it'd be 15 feet tall. Yeah, that had to be a metaphor. We don't necessarily think he was that tall. He was tall, but doesn't mean he was 15 feet tall. A takana usually means temporary decree. Yeah, that's why it's called a takana. Why is it a takana? Because they made it for that time period, right? They made it for that time period, right? Sometimes they made it decree only for that period for a different reason. What's the meaning of Shas? It means Sheish Sidrei Mishna, right? Sheish Sidor, right? That's what I'm pretty sure that's what it means. Yeah, Shisha Sidorim, 6 orders, right? 6 orders, i.e., 6 orders of the Mishnah, i.e., means the entire Talmud, right? The order of the Mishnah, you got Zroim talking about different aspects of things that have to do with land. Let's say, Orla, you're not allowed to take fruit from a tree that's been planted for the first 3 years. Kilaim, you're not allowed to make a mixture, make a mixture of different things, put different plants together. You got Moed, all the holidays. You got Nashim, laws about women, marriage, divorce. You got Nazarites, vows. You got Nezikin, all about damages, laws of damages, borrowing money with interest, and all that. You got idolatry in there also, and all about idolatry. So you got Zroim, Noshim, Nezikin, Moed. Then you got Taharos and Kach, right? Taharos meaning things that have to do with purity and impurity. And Kachim all about sacrifices. So Shas means like all of this, right? All the things that also made up the Talmud. What is the meaning of Kabbalah Maasid? Kabbalah Maasid means practical Kabbalah, right? Someone learning Kabbalah for doing practical things. Is it? What is the original sin? Adam and Eve ate from the tree. That's the original sin, right? That's what that's how they look at it, right? But the first sin is not murder. No, murder is not the first sin. First sin is Adam and Eve ate from the tree. That was the first command before murder, right? The first command in the Torah, God said to Adam and Eve, "Do not eat from the tree of knowledge." That was the first command. Does the Gemara say that any person who rejects idolatry is called a Jew? No. It says if you reject idolatry, it's a question if you call it a ger toshav or a nohad. Right? That's the whole question. Ger toshav is a non-Jew that lives amongst the Jewish people. There's the question if a ger toshav means that he went against idolatry or went against idolatry or kept the noahide laws. Idolatry is only one of the laws. It's only one of the noahide laws, but it doesn't mean a person is a Jew. There are three kinds of people say that God will forgive all the precious sins in their life. One is I don't know, I have to see. 1 second. I see there's another question here. Someone asked, what do you do if you stepped in something unpleasant on my way to synagogue? I don't know, try and take it off. Can't wash it off if it's dirt or mud, right? That you gotta be, that you gotta be careful. That you gotta be careful of. Putting water on it, that's also might be an issue. I don't know, you can take a tissue or something, try and take it off. Try and do that. I'm thinking you wouldn't be allowed to wash it. Right? Because if you wash it, it's like cleaning. In general, that would be a problem. So yeah, try and take something, to take the stuff off. That's what I would say on that. Someone asked topic of food in Torah is interesting, very important. Yeah. Foods. Speak about it one day. I get to Leviticus chapter 19, where the Torah says you have to be holy because God is holy. Very good, right? So Rashi says you got to stay away from forbidden relationships. According to the Ramban, you got to stay away from abusing things. Meaning, food is permissible, doesn't mean you should be a glutton, right? Drinking is permissible, doesn't mean you should be an alcoholic. So yeah, food plays a major role. I mean, certainly Shabbos festivals, we eat more, we eat better than we normally do. Right. So, at the same time, though, if a person eats when they're full, right, that's called what we call nachila gasa. It's called, it's like you're eating when you're overstuffed. That you can't do. That is forbidden. But you're allowed to enjoy good food. You're allowed to enjoy, good drinks. The problem is you can't abuse them. Right. That's the issue. So yeah, food comes up a lot. Definitely comes up a lot. But like anything else, person has to know how to use it, right? And you're not allowed, right? You're certainly not allowed to abuse it, right? In any way, shape, or form, right? That you can't do, right? That that's going to be, that's going to be forbidden. So therefore, again, a person's allowed to eat. That there's no question, right? A person is, you're allowed to eat, but again, you can't abuse food. You can't just eat, be, there are plenty of people that are overweight, yeah, but, it's a mitzvah in the Torah to guard yourself. 100% it's a mitzvah in the Torah to guard yourself. So, it doesn't mean you're not allowed to eat, but, today food's a whole art. See how people prepare it and how it looks and, different things. Yeah, it definitely gets abused, right? I don't think there's any, any question, but you're allowed to eat, you're allowed to enjoy good food. There's no question. Yeah, obviously there are other questions here. Yeah, so anyway, as we started with the Rabbeinu Yonah mentions, that a person gets jealous, they get jealous of somebody else, right, which brings evil eye on them, and they're jealous of other people, what they have. Cause damage to them, their friends as well. And they don't see, the problem is they do not see the bigger picture. They're going to say, it's not fair. Why does he have this? Why does he have that? Why shouldn't I have that? Again, logically you could say, right? Logically you could say that, I'm keeping this, I'm keeping that. I've heard this argument. I think it's a pretty weak argument, but I've heard this argument before. People say, "Wow, look at this person. They're trying to be close to God. They're working hard, and look at all the difficulty they have. They have problems with livelihood, they have problems with health, they have problems with all kinds of things. Why would I want to be part of the Jewish people, and go through that? Markesher. What's the connection? You're going to say, you look at what the Korban Aaron said in Leviticus chapter 10, story of Nadav and Avihu. Nadav and Avihu get taken, right? They're extremely holy people. Okay, they went into the Holy of Holies when they weren't commanded. God took them. But the Korban Aaron says, there are different reasons, doesn't really matter. But the Korban Aaron says, what's the problem? The Or Chaim HaKadosh brings them down, right? That the Korban Aaron says, you want to be close to the king, you get burnt. That's the reality. If you're the water boy, the mail carrier, whatever, the king's got a lot of lackeys to deal with you. If you did something wrong, you're you're second in command to the king. King can say you look better without a head, right? The closer you want to be to God, that's a good thing. And you got to work hard, very good. But the repercussions and the demands are much greater. They are going to be much greater. So therefore, a person could get burnt, right? And people could say, well, you look at this person, you look at that person, they're trying to be close to God, and they get flattened. They have this problem, that problem, the other problem. Okay. And you see righteous people, they might do one minor thing wrong that for everyone else wouldn't matter, but they do one minor thing wrong and they get destroyed, totally destroyed. You're gonna say, that's not fair. Like, this is the Torah, this is the reward, right? Students of Rabbi Kiva asked the question. Rabbi Kiva, was bothered. The Gemara says was bothered by the fact that he wanted to sanctify God's name, right? And when you say the Shema, the Shema. You say, first paragraph. Shall love the Lord your God, because, with all your heart, all your soul, with all your might, all your means. Right? What does it mean, kol nafshecha? Kol nafshecha means with all your soul. It means you have to be willing to give up your life. Right? You have to be willing to give up your life. You should die sanctifying God's name. Very good. So that's how he learned the verse. He learned the verse. When am I going to live until I sanctify God's name? And then he got caught by the Romans. And as they're flailing his skin with iron combs, the student said, Rebbe, Adkam, this is what it means. This is what the verse means. He went this whole sermon as being, as having his flesh ripped off his body. Right? And then he said, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And what happened? Then he died. And the Gemara says, Rabbi Akiva is Muchan Olam, right? He's welcome in the next world. Now, Rabbi Akiva is one of the few people. He wanted to live life according to strict justice. Now, who can live according to strict justice? Strict justice means you do one little thing wrong, or even a small thing that even for most people wouldn't be anything wrong, you get severely punished. Yaakov Avinu wanted to live according to that. Look at all the problems he had. Problems with Esau. Problems with Dinah, problems with Yosef, problems with Lava, right? All kinds of problems. He also wanted to live according to that. Very hard. People want to live to a high standard. Very good, right? But there's going to be serious payback. Most people are not going to live that way, even though God wanted to create the world according to that, according to strict judgment, because the first verse says, "Bereshis bara Elokim eis hashamayim ve'eis haaretz." God created the heaven and the earth. What's the use of the word God? Elokim. God of judgment. So even though it's God of judgment, God saw that judgment alone would not work. No one could live up to divine judgment, therefore he created the world with compassion, i.e. the name of God Hashem. Completed the world, he made the world with both strict judgment and compassion. Now we need compassion. We wouldn't have compassion. God wouldn't have compassion. No one survived. Be impossible. Be impossible to survive. So, but there are a few people in history. There are a few people in history that, I could survive like that. that could live according to strict justice. It's not the majority by any stretch. Nonetheless, what do I have here? So we see that the closer a person wants to be to God, that's a good thing. 100% that's a good thing. But at the same time, there's higher standard. It's a much higher standard. And by non-Jews. They want to go in the right path. They want to be, according to Noahide law. It's also a standard. It's also a big standard. So someone will say, wow, if that's the case, why would I want to be a Jew? Well, no one says you have to be a Jew. But if God sees in your heart, you could. This is just a flimsy excuse. This is nothing. It's not an excuse here. Right? It's nothing. Why do I say it's nothing? Because it doesn't matter what someone else goes through. And the fact that you want to have a real connection to the King of Kings means there's going to be payback for what you do. It's catch-22, right? Who says you're going to be, kicking up your heels and whistling Dixie? Who says? Nobody says. God doesn't say, life's going to be easy. God says you do what you're supposed to do. Fine. God will give you foods. He'll give you water. Take care of your needs. Right? Doesn't say it's going to be easy. But he says, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, it'll be payback. That means we should all be kicking up, sipping pina coladas. Most people, even if they're doing that, their life has been easy. And they're supposed to be. But remember one thing, whatever goes on in someone else's life does not matter for you. Whatever happens to them doesn't matter. Because the Ramchal says in Path of the Just, says in Derech Hashem, you're in this world to toil, period. That's what you're here for. Sometimes easier, sometimes not. You're in this world to toil. You have to be in this world in order to get to the next one. That's it. You have to be in this world. Some people have it easier, some people don't. But you're not. And again, this is exactly what Rabbeinu Yonah is saying over here. He's saying, don't look at what's going on in someone else's house. Don't look at what's going on somewhere else. Right? The whole point is you need to do what you need to do. Regardless of what someone else is going through. Again, very convenient. Anyone's going to say this is very convenient. Right? They'll say, oh, look at this person, look at that person, look at how hard it is. So what? No one says you have an obligation to convert. So don't convert. But if God sees in your heart you could have, you didn't, you're in trouble. Right? But you don't have an obligation. Nobody says you have an obligation. Yeah. The Jewish people are the chosen people. That's true. Anyone wants to join, I think people are out of their minds if they want to join in general. Why? Because look what Jewish people have gone through. In the glory days, of the first temple and everything else, very good. Yeah, everything's gone downhill after that. You see what's going on today. So some people, no, I still want to join. Okay. Yeah, logically speaking, doesn't make any sense. You have a much easier life being an non-Jew. Not convincing people either way. Right? That's the reality. The closer you are to the king, you can get burnt. You're held to a different standard. Right? Someone will say, but this person likes being punished mercilessly. Okay, so they have to work on their emunah. But guess what? A person who goes through that, their emunah is 10 times stronger. They become 10 times stronger, not for no reason. God may do it for who knows what, but these people are 10 times stronger because of it. And they can give that over to others. So that's not for nothing. That's a big mistake. It's not for nothing. God just tossing them around. He could be doing it so they can work on their emunah. So they can give that over to others even if they have difficulty. Not for no reason, not random. But again, the person wants to reach certain levels. And you want to do certain things. Yeah. You want to be close to the king. There's payback. There's for sure payback. Right? So someone say, well, if that's the case, I don't want to join. Okay. That's a person's choice. I'm not talking what a person do either way. That's their choice. They want to make that choice. Very good. So make it. But what someone else goes through has nothing to do with you. God's going to judge you and them is totally different. Right? Doesn't matter, person will say, yeah, I see these Orthodox Jews, they do this and do that, wrong. I never did that, so I don't have to keep anything. My kesher. What in the world's the connection? So what if they did something wrong? Yeah, that they weren't supposed to do. What does that have to do with you? Oh, but I didn't do that wrong, so I don't have to keep it. Like that's illogical. That is totally logical. So what do we learn from all this? You learn not to look at what someone else has or does. That's what we have to learn to do, and it doesn't matter. If they're successful, okay, so very good. So let them be successful. You should be happy that they're successful. Very good. That's what he wants. You tell me someone's stealing, doing other things. Okay. Yeah, they'll get caught. I'll take care of them. Yeah, but they got away with it now. So let's say they got away with it now. They'll get caught at some point. Something's going to happen. They'll pay the price. But we get caught up at looking at what other people do. That's the worst thing. Causes damage to you, to others. Someone says the decree that Jews have to live in exile is still in effect. What do you think? Why are you asking me this question? What do you think? We're in exile even in Israel. We're in exile everywhere. Very good. What's the simple answer? Of course we're in exile. Right? Isn't the decree Jews have to live in exile? Of course. How do I know? I'll tell you my prophecy. I'll tell you why I'm considered a prophet, which I'm not. Right? I'll tell you where my prophecy is here. Is the Messiah here? According to everybody. Has the Messiah come, the Jewish Messiah, redeem the Jewish people? Yes or no? What's the answer? No. Pretty clear. He's not here. I mean, he might be alive or whatever, but he's not here. He has not redeemed the Jewish people. He has not brought the Jewish people to Israel. The rest of the Jewish people, who are going to survive, he's not built the base on Mikdash. Hasn't built the temple. Right? So, all practical purposes, the Messiah has not come. Okay. Since the Messiah hasn't come, are we in exile? We're in exile. Yeah? Does God want us to stay in strange countries? No. I mean, what's the obligation to live in the land of Israel? There are two opinions. One is you have to live here. That's one opinion. The other opinion is if you can do it. Now, why would a person not live in the land? There's different reasons. He learns better outside the land. He's got livelihood outside the land. He's got family obligations outside the land. He can't leave. But doesn't the Torah say all Jews should be there? Yes. 100%. All Jews should be there. But if they have legitimate excuses, let's say, I'm going to be generous here. Let's say they have genuine excuses not to live in Israel. They're going to fry in hell forever? No. They were great people, never made it to Israel. Vilna Gaon never made it to Israel. Chofetz Chaim never made it to Israel. The Gemara says, the end of Ksuvas, it says, anyone who lives outside of Israel, it's like they have no God. Yeah, you want to say there's no God in their lives? You're not going to say that. The way God interacts outside of Israel and in the land of Israel, it's different. It's very different. God's presence is more felt here. No question. Right? At the end of the day, the Torah makes clear we should be in Israel. All Jews. Right? That's true. But you see also from what the prophets say, there's going to be a time in history, which we're still living in, that all the Jews are not there. So 2,000 years the Jews have not been in the land of Israel. Now that we're in the land of Israel, okay, people say that's the beginning of the redemption. Could be. Right? That could be. I'm not denying that, maybe. But the redemption hasn't come. It's very clear it hasn't come. Right? You need the Jews to be here. Now, shouldn't it be that Jews should see clear as day? They shouldn't be living outside the land? Yeah, it should be. It doesn't mean they're going to come. I think one of the problems also is the person lives in a very strong community. You got, kashrus, you have, girls' schools, yeshivas, this, that, people, quote unquote, living off the fat of the land, some better, some worse, right? They're not going to come here. They don't have any idea to come here. Why should they come here? Livelihood's good, other things are good, they're going to, they're going to live here under attack, live in smaller places. Probably some people, I'm not going to say everybody, some people don't even feel the idea to come. They're happy being in exile. They feel it. No question they feel it, but like they're happy in exile in general. Because life is good to them. Yeah. Again, even if there's more anti-Semitism and different things, okay. But yeah, they're gonna come here. If they got a good excuse to be there, okay. There are plenty of people who have no interest whatsoever. I'm talking Orthodox Jews, no interest whatsoever to come. If they don't have a good excuse, God will judge it how he judges it. Right? But there are two aspects. One is an outright mitzvah to be there. The other is if you can do it. We call it mitzvah kiyumis, if you're able to do it. And if you can't do it, you can't do it. You got good reason why you can't do it. Okay. You can do what you can do. Right? I'm not saying some people, I definitely think have no excuse. They have no excuse. They should be here. I'm not going to say by everybody. Right? But a lot of people don't feel like they should be here. That's a problem. That's an exile mentality. And there is an exile mentality. Somebody asked, 3 kinds of people God will forgive their previous sins. One is the person who takes a wife for himself, converts, and a person who gets a higher position. Person who gets married, yeah. For them, it's like Yom Kippur. All their sins are forgiven. A convert, that is true. Convert who converts is considered like a newborn baby. They have all their sins forgiven. That's also true. Third one, I'm not sure. Person who gets a higher position, why should they have all their sins forgiven? Right? I don't know why that should be there. I hear someone mentioned we're chosen to fix the world. Okay. That's true. But essentially, let's make clear: had Adam and Eve done what they were supposed to do, we wouldn't even need the rest of the world. The world would have been destroyed. That would have been it, right? So, there's good reason why we haven't been, we've been in exile for so long. So you say, yeah, we're here to fix the world. True. So we have to be all over the world. We're scattered all over the world. That's part of the punishment. Very good, right? So we have to do our best to try and fix things up so we can bring the world to where it was before Adam and Eve sinned. Very good. Or bring the Messiah, either way. Right? Very good. Right? The problem is, does God want us in exile? What's the answer? No. He doesn't want us in exile. Sure, he doesn't want us in exile. But that's part of the punishment. Do what you're supposed to do? He's going to throw everyone out. Right? Everyone out of the pool. Right? That's it. Right? What happened with Adam and Eve? Right? Throw them out of the garden. That's it. Get out. Did he want to do that? No. Is that why he created the world? No. But he knew it could happen. We chose God. God chose us. Very good. Doesn't God know we can make serious mistakes? Yes. Does he know he's going to have to exile us, give us pogroms and Holocaust and all that? Yes. Does he want to? No. But he has to. Right? In other words, you go against what he says, then there's going to be payback. 100%. 100%. There'll be payback. So God's just doing what he's doing now. Sometimes payback looks totally horrific. Right? Totally horrific. That's what it is. That's why if anyone wants to join, I tip my hat to people because, I was born as a Jew, so it's a different issue. But, anyone choosing this, seeing what the Jewish people have gone through throughout the millennium, not just what they're going through now. I'm not saying you have a death sentence on you, not going to go that far, but like, Jewish people are not at the top of their game. No question. A lot of miracles going on, I think there's no question about that. But, at the same time, at the same time, what were the Jewish people going through? Right? So, yeah, that's what I would say. That's what I would say about that. Someone said, I was just wondering what is there to Hashem being in Israel or being abroad? Person can live very spiritual life even outside of Israel. It's harder. It's definitely harder. You don't see God's presence, as close as you would see it, in the land and different things. Okay. right? God, the Torah makes clear the Jews should be in Israel. There's no question, right? But the prophets also make clear that if we don't do what we're supposed to do, we'll be exiled, right? That's also very clear, right? God wants the Jewish people to serve Him in the land. I don't think there's any question. But we'll have to exile us if we don't do what we're supposed to do. I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any question. My Rebbe's father would say, it's better to be a Jew outside of Israel who desires to come to Israel than a Jew living in Israel desires to go outside of Israel. Right? In other words, you have to want the desire to be there. Right? That should be a normal desire for most Jews to want to eventually go to the land or to live in the land. Now, for some people, they don't have it. Why? Because they don't. Exile, unfortunately, has been too good. They're living off the fat of the land. When you live off the fat of the land, what am I missing? We don't have a temple today. Can't give sacrifice, can't do other things. Very good. What am I missing? I got schools, I got yeshivas, I got kosher food, I got everything. That's one of the reasons, or one of the things, one of the aspects of not having a temple in Jerusalem. Exile is one of the aspects, because we don't know what it means to see miracles, in the temple. We don't know what it means to have God's presence here. We have no idea what that means. We've never in contact, we're never in contact with it. Very good. What do I have over here? We have no contact with it. So people in exile, it's a lot better than it used to be. Where I think so many people left Poland, Russia, all these places. They're getting persecuted left and right. They couldn't keep Torah. Pogroms, whatever. They're just impossible. Impossible to keep Torah mitzvahs because of where they lived. So they left. So they went to the gold, a lot of people ended up either, let's say in Israel, or we'll call it the Golden of Medina, right? I.e. in America. America's been the best place for Jews in many ways. No question about it. It's also been a tremendous amount of assimilation and intermarriage, also true. Also true, but Torah's totally flourished there right now. I mean, you see, it's unbelievable. Community is just expanding by leaps and bounds. On the other hand, out of the 6.5 million Jews that are there, you got 4.5 to 5 million don't know nothing, don't know the Aleph base, can't say Shema Yisrael, they know nothing from nothing. Okay. But the only people who are going to survive are the ones keeping Torah mitzvahs. So, so it's two sides of the coin. On the one hand, you got a lot of Torah mitzvahs going on, and a lot of communities flourishing like no tomorrow, and everywhere else drowning, and all these synagogues left and right shutting down. Reform, conservative, anywhere in between, they're all shutting down because they can't pass it down. It's like, it's a fossil. These things will disappear. Okay. So, but on the other hand, the ability to keep Torah mitzvahs in a free way is huge. Huge. And you get some very, very strong communities there, producing Torah giants, no question. Right? That there's no question. Is it like living in Israel? No. Right? Certainly not. But okay. So you got places that are flourishing, but in a lot of other places, even within, let's say, within the same country, you got 90% doing nothing, or less than nothing, and have no clue about anything. So on the one hand, it's been great for the Jewish people. On the other hand, it's been total destruction. In Israel, it's interesting. It's interesting that Yaakov Avinu sent Yehuda to Goshen, set up schools, set up yeshivas. The only place in the world where there wasn't an establishment set up when the Jews came was America. America did not have that. So when the great rabbis came from, after World War II, or during World War II, Rav Aaron Cutler, blessed memory, started Lakewood, Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky, blessed memory. I mean, you had like serious Torah giants, that came. Moshe Feinstein, a blessed memory, Ruderman, a blessed memory. I mean, you had serious bona fide Torah giants that reestablished Torah in America. But you're talking like the 40s and 50s, like there was nothing there. No infrastructure, very weak at best. No one thought Orthodox was going to survive. They thought Orthodox would disappear. Yeah, I got a few people here, a few people there. It's going to be Reform, conservative, whatever. It's going to totally disappear. That's what they thought. Look what happened. But you see, though, interesting enough, you see that when these Torah giants came, there were nothing there. They were going to a desert. They were going into a spiritual desert, in which everybody thought that quote unquote, that brand of Judaism will die. Many people believe. Not going to last one generation. Made a serious mistake. But look what's going on there. Places like Lakewood, Williamsburg, Chicago, places in LA. I mean, you got huge, thriving Jewish communities. You know, people sitting and learning, serious learning going on. But it is ironic, and it's what you learn from Yehuda going to the land of Goshen. Before you're going to send Jewish people anywhere, you have to have an infrastructure. You have just nothing. It's not going to go. It's going to take a long time to build it. Now, Chabad's a different issue. Chabad goes everywhere, right? You know, they're certainly in every state. You know, South Dakota being the last state in America. You know, go to far-flung places. Okay. But to establish anything, you know, where there's nothing there, it takes time. It takes quite a bit of time to establish something. You know, in the States, there was nothing. There was very little. What it became today is huge. You know, there's no question. Yeah, it's an unbelievable revolution. It's occurred over the last 50 years, more, right? Well, it's the last 70 years. It's unbelievable. But on the flip side, you got the majority of people don't do anything. And the statistics I saw, I think in the mid-90s or early 2000s, that Judaism was losing 35,000 Jews a year to assimilation into marriage. 35,000 is probably a lot more than that now. But even if you tell me, you know, there's a surge of people becoming religious, Bali Tshuva, right? Jews becoming Orthodox Jews and converts. How many a year? 1,000 if you're lucky. If you're lucky. Yeah. So you're losing, let's say, 60 to 70,000, gaining 1,000. It's a 70% loss every year. 69%, whatever. Even if it's 50%, it's a huge thing. But that's what you're up against. That's why the Torah says you're only going to have a remnant left. So it's a cleansing process. If you keep Torah mitzvahs, you're in, hopefully. If not, you'll disappear. That's, you know, I'm not a firm believer, and I made this, you know, I've said this many times. I'm not a firm believer all the Jews coming back when the Messiah comes. There'll be repentance. There'll be people that will come back. The vast majority, I don't think so. Right? I'm not a big believer. Some people will say, no, the entire nation is going to come back. I don't know. I find that hard to believe. But you got 90% wiping themselves off the face of the map. But the 10% that's strong are really strong. You know, so that's a good thing. So you tell somebody who's part of that community, they've been there for years, and you got family there and a lot of family there, whatever. It wouldn't even dawn on them to come to you. Wouldn't dawn on them. So I give people a lot of credit. If they have a lot of family there and they come here to live, it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing. Yeah, I don't think there's any question, but look what you're up against. Someone says, everyone should do kiruv, bring Hashem to lost children. Yeah, try and bring them back as much as we can. But, you know, I'll tell you a very sobering thing that, you know, depress everyone. You're not going to save everyone. It's just not going to happen. There were some, you know, some great rabbis say that, you know, if we do outreach and, you know, the religious do outreach and this and that, you'll be able to bring them all back. No, I don't think so. I mean, that's wishful thinking. That's wishful thinking. We'll save whoever we can save. You know, the majority, I just don't see it. You know, we got to do our best to bring whoever we can back. Okay. But, you know, I certainly don't think the vast majority coming back. It's, you know, it's their loss. You know, but it's only so much you can do. Somebody asks, person who rejected idolatry called a Jew. I said no. Answer is no. They're either called a Ger Toshav or a Noan. Right? They're not called a Jew. Right? I definitely wouldn't call them a Jew. I'm not so sure. I've heard people. There's a difference of opinion what a Ger Toshav is. Does the Ger Toshav who lives amongst the Jewish people, do they reject idolatry or they keep the no-hide law? So there's a difference of opinion. There's a difference of opinion. But even if you tell me it's called the Ger Toshav, it's not a Jew. Doesn't make them de facto a Jew. That's not true. That is not true. Someone asked, someone says, but it's rough to get into the Jewish people. Yeah, it's not supposed to be easy. And if you don't have perseverance, you don't have broad shoulders, if you're an introvert, you're in the wrong, you're barking up the wrong tree. You just got to do it. However you got to do it. Try and get your foot in the door. That's just what you have to do. Right? But no one says it's supposed to be easy. People say, but it doesn't have to be this hard. Okay, but it is. There's good reason to. Right? Other so-called religions make it much easier. Okay. But, we're not looking for that. We want people going to be the real deal. So, they're going to be pushed away. They have to go through the ringer if they want to be part of the real deal. That's what they got to do. I'm not saying that's be impossible. Right? I'm not going that far. But there's good reason why. Right? There's good reason why. Doesn't mean about Chabad. Chabad's the easiest one. Right? Don't make that mistake. They're the easiest one, the most welcoming one. Yeah. There are people in other synagogues, that do kiruv, do outreach. They'll also be welcoming. Right? But again, doesn't mean it's going to be easy. But there are plenty of Orthodox rabbis that have nothing to do with converts. Nothing to do with converts. Because they're just giving the Jewish people a bad name. And they flake out and different things. And right? So they're going to make it more difficult. Right? But that's not their job. Chabad's job is not to convert people. That's not their job. They're looking for Jews who want to learn more about, they're trying to get Jews to learn more about Judaism. They'll help converts. Doesn't mean they'll give classes per se. Some do, some don't. Yeah, it doesn't matter. But that's not their job. Their job is working with Jews who don't know anything about Judaism. And they have, one of their big things also was teaching no-hide laws to non-Jews. Right? I found, in the last 16 years, I've been doing what I'm doing. I know one person that converted through a Chabad rabbinical court. One. They don't assemble a rabbinical court to convert people, usually. Very rare. But that's not what they do. That's all what they do. Now, it doesn't mean they won't help, per se. Right? But I'm saying, other Orthodox rabbis have nothing to do with converts. They just won't. Chabad's much easier. Now you tell me, but it's hard to get into them. It's going to be hard to get in anywhere. I would say they're the easiest of anyone else. Some are harder, I would say. Okay, but in general, they're much more welcoming. Much more welcoming. But it doesn't mean by them either it's going to be a cakewalk. It doesn't mean that. Yeah. Let's see. Any other questions here? Yeah, one other thing here. Whatever. Hold off on that for now. Yeah, any other questions? There are some places I'll tell you. They'll say convert somewhere else. And then you convert somewhere else, we'll accept you. But they won't do the conversion in their community. Heard that also. Right? I've heard that also. So you send them out, you don't deal with them. It's okay. If you convert properly, we'll accept you. I've heard that also. So some people say, well, I can't do this and whatever. So they went for a more bogus conversion. Foreign conversion, conservative conversion, Masorati, whatever you want to call it. Traditional conversion, I don't even know what that means. Right? Whatever that means. Some people do that. Okay. Because it's too hard. So someone told me once, a number of years ago, it's so hard. It's so hard that, I went, I'm just doing a conservative conversion. So I said, okay, you think it's so hard, what should we take out? Kashrus. Shabbos. Family purity. What should we take out? What mitzvah should we take out? Make it easy. It's easy to keep it. You don't keep it. If you're going to keep it, you're going to do it the right way. You don't want to do it the right way. It's your choice. Right? It's your choice, but, it's not supposed to be easy for a reason. On that, I'm gonna stop there. I do this every I just every Saturday, 2 o'clock Eastern time, 9 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions? Find me on Facebook at Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com. Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on Kunaitis, Ethics of Our Fathers, Book of Leviticus, which I actually giving tomorrow, back to a normal schedule, 9 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Israel time. You want to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBI, CHAIMCOFFMAN@gmail.com. Wish everyone a good middle of the day, end of the day, depending where you are, and everyone have a great rest.